Hi everyone, it's Lara here and welcome to our Warrior 2 flow. So we're going to start today in Child's Pose at the end of our mat. I'm going to start off by taking the knees wide. So we're going to come on down, take the knees wide, the feet together, then lift the chest, just going to lengthen the spine to start, and then walk our hands out and draw the forehead onto the mat. So just taking a few moments here, just to settle into the mat and into your practice. If you can, starting to bring some awareness to the breath, so breathing nice and deeply. As you inhale, letting the lungs fill, feeling the shoulder blades move apart. And as you exhale, just sinking back over the hips as best you can. Try to make each inhale a little deeper than the last, the breath a little slower. We just let everything start to relax, and we settle here into our mat. Just bringing some awareness to the tips of the fingers to start, so maybe just tapping them on the mat. And then working your way with a wave of sort of consciousness through the body. So through the hands, up either arm, into the shoulders, down through the torso to the hips, and through the legs to the tips of the toes. Just checking in, we're all still there. And then from here, we're going to find our way into a thread needle position while staying in our child's pose. So on the inhale, we're going to lift the left arm up towards the ceiling. Then on the exhale, thread the arm through underneath you. So from here, we can take the right hand and just walk it all the way over to the left. So we just get a little bit of a deeper twist sensation and a nice opening across the right side, the top side of the body here. So as we're a little bit more compressed than when we come via our tabletop position, you might feel that you sort of get a little bit deeper into the shoulder. It's just another variation for you to try. Still breathing deeply. And then walking the right hand back over, taking the left arm back up towards the ceiling, and then exhaling, placing yourself back on the mat. This time lifting the right arm up nice and high and threading it through underneath you. Just gently drawing yourself down to the mat, and again, option to walk the left fingers over towards the right hand side of the mat. Can use this little thread the needle variation. Just keeping track of the breath. If you can, inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Trying to cultivate our ujjayi breath, nice deep oceanic sounding breath. I generally just tell my yogis, just focus on what works for you. Just try and make the full use of your lungs if you can. I'm going to walk the left hand back over, take the right arm briefly back up towards the ceiling, and then place it back on the mat. From here, coming into our tabletop. So I'm going to draw the hands underneath the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips. On the inhale, rolling up through the spine, drawing the chin in towards the chest, coming into our cat. And on the exhale, rippling through, gazing towards the top of the mat, drawing the shoulder blades down the back. So in your own time, just moving between these two positions, trying to keep everything nice and fluid. If you want to have a bit of a freestyle, press into one hip and then the other. As you come up, please feel free to do so. Have a wiggle. Just getting things moving, getting warm. Doesn't matter what you want to do that. Just a few more rounds here. Keep everything nice and fluid. Moving with your breath at your own pace. And then slowly coming back towards center. Making sure the belly button is drawn in towards the spine. I'm going to come back to our little thread the needle variation, but this time coming from our tabletop. So on the inhale, lifting the left arm up towards the ceiling, really lifting the chest up too, and then as we exhale, taking the arm underneath us. So option to take the right arm out in front, and whilst we're in this variation of the pose, perhaps straighten the opposite leg, so that's the right leg, and just gently press the heel away. So you get a little bit of opening through the right leg, just an option if you choose. And then gently drawing the right knee down, and taking the right hand back in, extending the left arm back up towards the ceiling, and placing it back on the mat here. Coming over to the other side, so lifting the right arm up nice and high, threading the arm through underneath you, drawing the shoulder to the mat. And again, we've got the options to take the left arm up overhead, and then maybe tuck the toes on the left foot and press the heel away. So there's plenty of different variations in yoga if you seek them out, if you're interested. Always remember it's your practice. So you can do whatever you would like with it. And then gently drawing the left knee down, taking the left hand back in, and right arm comes back up towards the ceiling, and then placing it back on the mat here. So I'm going to come into some little hip circles now. So we're going to lift the left leg so that the knee just hovers off the mat. And just start to do some little circles at first, just focusing on trying to relax around the hip joint. And then slowly making those circles bigger and bigger. So you want to draw the heel towards the bum and the knee towards the elbow. So the biggest circles you can possibly manage. The more if you get any clicking, any crunching, as long as there's no pain. Just a sign we always need to move a bit more if we can. Reversing the direction here. Having said that, I still click and pop all the time, so perhaps there's no hope. And then gently setting the leg back down. Coming over to the other side this time. Little wiggle with the right knee. Letting the hip relax. And then slowly starting to make those circles a little bigger if you can. Drawing the heel towards the bum and the knee towards the elbow. Big circles, great work. And then reversing the direction. Still staying on the same side. And then gently setting the leg back down. From here, coming to our first downward facing dog. So spreading the hands nice and wide, tucking the toes, lifting the hips, and just starting to pedal out through the feet. Remembering to keep a bend in the knee, particularly as you draw the heel up. Not too warm yet. So you want to focus on finding the length through the spine, keeping a slight bend in the elbows here. And not worrying too much where our heels come to. Lifting the hips high. Keeping it real. Maybe having a little twist left and right, whatever works for you. And then walking the feet in towards the hands and coming to our ragdoll. So ragdoll, hands come to opposite elbows, nice deep bend in the knees again, just gently rocking left and right. Back of the neck grows long, so we just let gravity do the work here. Everything comes down towards the toes, except for the hips that come up nice and high. And then taking the hands down. On the inhale, rolling up through the spine, stacking the shoulders, circling the arms nice and wide, drawing the hands into prayer, exhaling, folding down. On the inhale, finding a halfway lift, straightening out through the back. Then on the exhale, folding back down. Inhaling, rolling up through the spine. One more time, circling the arms wide, hands come into prayer, and exhaling, folding all the way back down. Inhaling, finding that halfway lift. And taking the hands down to the mat, we're going to take our first little modified vinyasa. But first of all, just pausing in plank for a moment, making sure everything's nice and active. We're going to press the heels away, draw the belly button into the spine, try and keep the bum down if you can. And then we're going to try and dome through the back here. So you can imagine your fingers between your shoulder blades. There aren't fingers, it'd be a little bit difficult to have your fingers there. So we've got some fingers between our shoulder blades. I'm going to press them away, so we're going to dome. We're going to keep the bum down, but we're going to create a doming sensation. We're opening up between the shoulder blades. And we're going to come back to a neutral position in our plank. And then try and create a little valley. If you need to bring the knees down here, that's fine. So if there's fingers between my shoulder blades, I'm now trying to move away from them. Coming back to a neutral position, gently drawing the knees down and tucking the toes. Chest comes all the way to the floor. Hands come in line with the shoulders. On the inhale, gently lifting to cobra. And as we exhale, lowering down, taking one cheek to the mat, and just giving the hips a bit of a wiggle, releasing any tension in the lower back. On the inhale, lifting again. And then on the exhale, lowering back down, taking the opposite ear to the mat, giving the hips a wiggle again. And then third and final time on the inhale, lifting the chest. And exhaling, lowering back down. Finding your way in your own time back to downward facing dog. So we're going to press into the hands and lift the hips up high. Drawing the feet underneath us. Nice deep breath here. And then when you're ready on the next inhale, we're going to lift the left leg up towards the ceiling. Option to bend and open, taking the heel towards the bum and the knee up towards the sky. We're going to step the left foot through to the top of the mat in one go if we can. So as we draw the knee forward, we're going to dome through the back and then take the foot forward. Twisting the back foot and coming into warrior two. So I'm just going to twist round so you can see me. So we want the front foot to be on the center line and the back foot just to be coming across it. So we have the inner arch of the back foot aligned with the heel in the front foot. We're going to try and keep the hips and shoulders in line. I want to gaze out over the front hand. I'm going to really try and sink into the bend of the front leg. But keep the back leg active, so you want to press into the outside edge of the back leg here. Toes on the front foot are relaxed. And from here, turning the front palm, reaching forward, and then reversing our warrior. Left arm comes up overhead. Breathing deeply and just gently resting the back hand on the back leg. And coming into extended side angle. Right arm comes out overhead. We're reaching through the fingers. So really energetic through the right hand side of the body. And just gently resting the left arm here. So it's not carrying too much weight. We're trying to use our core as much as we can to hold this upright here. Coming back into warrior two. And if you can, sink a little lower for a breath. And then we're going to twist to face the side of the mat and come into a brief forward fold. So we're going to take our hands to the hips, press the hips back, keep a slight bend in the knees, but otherwise the legs are straight, and fold halfway down to start with. So we're going to stay active by keeping the hands up off the ground. We're going to make sure the weight is even through the feet and the inner arches are lifted. Then from here, if you want, you can briefly take the hands down or to a block if that works for you. Just have a little breath here, get a bit deeper into the legs, pressing the hips back. And from here, we're going to find our way to goddess pose. So we're going to draw the belly button in. We're going to walk the feet in just slightly to narrow the stance. We're going to turn the feet out slightly so that the toes are further out than the heels. We're going to engage through the core and take the hands overhead. And we're going to sink down vertically, trying to keep the knees tracking over the feet here. So breathing nice and deeply, trying to hold ourselves upright. If you want an extra challenge, try coming to the tiptoes and just sink the bum that little bit further down. So starting to get into our hips here. And then we're going to take the heels back down, straighten back up and find our way into warrior two. So the left foot still facing forward here. I'm going to take the hands to frame the front foot. And this time taking a vinyasa of your choice. So if you want to take a full vinyasa, we lower to 90 degrees. We roll over the toes to upward facing dog, and we exhale back to downward facing dog. Remember, you can take a modified vinyasa at any time. I will switch between the two to keep demonstrations going. So just breathing in our downward facing dog, hopefully starting to get a little warmer. On the inhale, we'll lift the right leg this time. Option to bend and open, taking the heel to the bum and the knee nice and high. So trying to keep the torso still level. So we don't want to twist and open as if we were gazing under our right elbow here. We want to keep the chest facing down towards the mat. So the pressure should be equal through the left and the right hand. We're going to draw the right knee in towards the chest, step to the top of the mat. Coming into our warrior two on the other side. Again, just twisting around so you guys can see. Sinking into the legs as best you can. Just checking in and making sure we're not leaning forward here. So shoulders over hips. And then as we reverse the warrior, we do come forward slightly. We turn the hand, right arm comes up overhead. So reaching behind us. Trying to keep the sensation of lift through the chest. And then coming into extended side angle. Left arm comes out overhead, reaching through the fingertips, pressing through the outside edge of the back foot. Staying nice and active here. And then like we did on the other side, coming back into warrior two, sinking a bit deeper in the legs if you can. And then finding our way to a wide angle forward fold. This time coming into a twist. So we're going to take the right hand down to the center of the mat, or just slightly in front of the mat, and take the left arm up to the ceiling. Remember, you have always got an option here to use a block for the bottom hand. And then switching over sides, left hand comes down, right arm comes up. Great work. Taking these moments just to breathe. Right arm comes down and finding our way back to our goddess squat. So we're going to walk the feet in again, make sure the toes are slightly turned out. If we can, become a bit narrow with the stance. Arms come up overhead, we sink down. Belly buttons engaged slightly. So as unfriendly as it would be, imagine someone is going to punch you. Would it hurt basically? I mean, it might hurt, but you know what I mean? Like, is there some tension in the abs? That's what you want to have, just that amount of sort of protection as it were there. A little bit of engagement and switch on through the stomach. We're going to come up onto the tiptoes one more time. Sink the bum down if you can. Feeling nice and energized. Keep the shoulders down, away from the ears if you can. Heels go down, coming back up. And from here, back into our warrior two. So right foot is facing forward. Just another moment in this pose, sinking into the hips if you can. And then taking the hands to frame the front foot. And briefly, as we step back to plank, just holding that. So we're going to press the heels away, make sure we're feeling nice and strong. We're going to engage through the core, belly button comes in towards the spine. This time I'm going to demonstrate our modified vinyasa. So we're going to draw the knees down, untuck the toes, chest comes all the way to the floor. Hands in line with the shoulders, inhaling, lifting the chest to cobra. And then exhaling, coming down and coming to our child's pose. So those of you who've taken a full vinyasa, perhaps just meeting us in child's pose briefly, we're going to walk the hands in and come to kneeling. Just taking a moment to take the hands behind the back, squeeze the shoulders together. Just going to get a little bit of opening across the chest, waking up the shoulders, preparing for our next flow. Great work, everyone. So before you know it, hands are back down on the mat and we're pressing into our downward facing dog. So as we get a little bit warmer, maybe have another pedal with the feet. Trying to work the heels down just ever so slightly, but remember it's not our focus. We're focusing on lifting the hips high and trying to keep the back lovely and long. The fingers are spread and we're just pressing evenly through each finger, through the thumb and the base of the hand. So there's a slight pocket of air under our knuckles here. On the inhale, we're going to lift the left leg up towards the ceiling, try and lift the heel high. Option to bend and open so the heel comes to the bum and the knee lifts towards the sky. From here, knee comes into the chest. I'm going to step through to the top of the mat, opening up to warrior two one more time. Just twisting around, sinking into our warrior two, turning the front palm, reaching forward, reversing the warrior, and coming straight into extended side angle. So this time, option to stay here in extended side angle if that feels enough, or you can take the top arm behind the back and interlace the fingers through to the inside of the front hip, coming into a half bind. If you regularly practice a half bind or have a full bind in your practice, then feel free to come a step further, which I'm just going to show you. But if you haven't done this before, just stay here for a couple of practices before you try going any deeper, just to make sure we keep our shoulders sort of switched on and happy with what we're doing. So to come into the full bind, we're going to take the left shoulder down towards the knee. Left hand comes through and catches hold of the back hand. We want to keep the chest feeling really open here. So my right shoulder is drawing back, and so like the whole body is in line here. The right shoulder's in line with the left. I feel nice and open in the bind. We don't want to be collapsed down and sort of chest coming towards the ground. The chest is facing towards the right. Releasing the bind, meeting back in extended side angle and coming back briefly to warrior two. Taking the hands to frame the front foot, and as it's a short class today, just pressing straight back to downward facing dog for now. Just having a quick pedal, settling back into the pose, taking a deep breath. Then on the inhale this time, lifting the right leg up, option to bend and open so the heel comes to the bum, the knee lifts high. Drawing the right knee into the chest, doming through the back and stepping to the top of the mat. Coming into our warrior two. Twisting around just to show you. And then from here, as we settle into the bend of the front leg, we start to reach forward, return the palm and reverse the warrior. Great work, everyone. From here, coming to extended side angle, taking the left arm up overhead, reaching out through the fingertips and pressing to the outside edge of the back foot. Keeping the toes on the front foot relaxed here too if you can. Left arm comes behind the back, finding the half bind. Fingers interlace through to the inside of the front hip. Remember, we have got that option of the full bind if you'd like to give it a go. Just be mindful of how your body feels. Remember, it's your practice. And when it's at home, it's even easier. Don't feel pressured by others around you. I sometimes see people in the studio and I wonder if they'd try the pose if their best friend wasn't doing it. It really doesn't matter who can do what. My forward folds are terrible and I'm a yoga teacher. Anyway, I'm holding you here, coming into the full bind, taking the right shoulder down towards the knee. Right hand comes through to catch hold of the left hand behind you. So trying to keep the chest open, left shoulder comes up so we're not collapsing the chest here. Breathing deeply, feeling really strong and active through the legs. You can gaze down towards the front foot or maybe up over the shoulder, whatever feels comfortable for you. Releasing the bind, taking the left arm back overhead, and coming to our warrior two just for another breath, staying strong. Gazing out over the front hand, taking the hands to frame the front foot, stepping back to plank and taking a vinyasa of your choice. So if you're having a go at the full vinyasa, we're lowering down to 90 degrees, rolling over the toes to upward facing dog, and exhaling back to downward facing dog. Nice deep breath here. Exhale, let it go. So we're going to find a little twist in our downward facing dog, taking the left hand through to the outside of the right leg. So if you want here, you can gaze under the right arm to sort of increase the intensity of the stretch here. And you can hold anywhere on the right leg with the left hand. So if you can't quite reach around the ankle, that's fine. You can hold a little bit higher on the leg, whatever works for you. Try to keep a slight bend in the supporting arm here. So we're not locking out through the elbow. We're making the arm nice and strong. That bend is helping strengthen the muscles on either side of the elbow. From here, we take the left hand out and we come to the twist on the other side. Just stay with it, guys. Great work. So remember, we're trying to gaze under the armpit. I hope you've got some deodorant on. Sorry, I'm in a funny mood today. And gently pressing the left heel down. So you should get a really good stretch down the back of the left leg. And then taking the right hand back down to the mat. So we're just in a normal downward facing dog now. On the inhale, we're going to lift the left leg high again. I'm going to change things slightly this time. So draw the heel towards the bum, the knee comes up high. Now instead of stepping through, we're going to draw the knee in towards the chest. We're going to work on that dome, so really squeeze the knee in, and then we're going to draw it over towards the right. So we're going to take the knee towards the right elbow, try and lift it higher if you can. And then pressing back up. And this time stepping to the top of the mat. So we're going to take the left foot all the way to the top of the mat, finding warrior two one more time. Gazing out over the front hand, sinking deep into your legs. So we will build strength through the legs if we can sink into them. So really try and make the most of this pose if you can. Turning the front palm, reaching forward, reversing the warrior, left arm comes up overhead. And then exhaling, coming forward to extended side angle. This time we've got a little strength option. So we're going to try drawing the left arm and running it up parallel with the right. So we're drawing extra strength through the left side of the core to help us stay upright here. Really energetic, reaching out through the fingers. And then opening back up and coming into warrior two. From here, coming to our triangle pose. So we're going to step the back foot in, about a foot. We're going to keep the feet facing the same way. So the left foot still facing forward and the right foot is parallel with the short edge of the mat. Taking the arms nice and long. We're going to reach out forward and then fold. We're going to imagine we're between two panes of glass there. So you can't lean forward or backward here. The shoulders stack one on top of the other and the hips stack too. So we're just literally trying to keep everything in one plane. If you can, gaze up towards the top hand, which will give you a little bit of a test on the balance. If you want, you can gaze down. You can also take the hand to a block as another option here too. I generally tend to just rest the back of the left hand against the left leg. So you should be getting a good opening down around the right hip. And if you'd like, we've got an option now to come to half moon, but hold your horses if you practice half moon regularly. I'm just going to grab hold of a block. I always teach half moon with a block because I like to make sure that your the underside of the left body is nice and open and we're not collapsing over the left hip trying to reach the floor. So those of you coming into half moon, we're going to draw the foot in and then we're just going to pause here. So at that takeoff point, you might want to lift the toe just off the mat. So this is a really good way to build balance and strength. And then we're going to really gently and slowly come into the pose. So we're trying to lift the right leg behind us, try and keep the right hip stacked on top of the left, and trying to keep the right arm up overhead. If you're feeling brave, you can try knocking the block over for a moment and coming into the pose without support. When you're ready, coming back into warrior two, and then taking the hands to frame the front foot and coming into a vinyasa of your choice. So you step back to plank. Option for modified is to lower the knees down and tuck the toes. Chest comes all the way to the floor. Hands in line with the shoulders, inhaling, lifting to cobra, and exhaling, lowering down, and pressing back to downward facing dog. So we're going to come back, lift the hips, and meet in our downward facing dog. So in downward facing dogs, we're getting a little bit warmer. Maybe try just taking a micro step forward. So not even a full sort of foot length forward. And what this is going to do is help us get a little bit deeper into the backs of the legs and draw the heels down whilst keeping the back lovely and long. And then on the next inhale, we lift the right leg high. Remember, slightly different this time. Drawing the heel towards the bum, knee up towards the sky. Then from here, drawing the knee into the chest, squeezing tight, and then taking the knee over towards the left this time. So coming across the body in a twist. Try and draw the knee higher than the elbow if you can. And then pressing back up towards the ceiling. This time stepping the right foot through to the top of the mat, finding our warrior two again, sinking into the legs, switch round. Great work, guys, doing really awesome job. We're going to turn the front palm, reverse the warrior, and then coming into extended side angle. So taking the left arm up overhead, reaching out through the fingertips. Remember, we've got the option to lift the right arm as well. So building strength through the obliques, that's the right side of the core. Breathing deeply. It's not an easy pose, so stay with it. This is where you build the strength. And opening back up to warrior two. From here, shortening the stance, coming into triangle. So we shorten it by about a foot. We fold over the front leg, taking the left arm up towards the ceiling. Making sure you're still keeping track of the breath. Remember, you have got the option to hold onto a block here as well. Just staying here for a moment to soak up the benefit of the pose before we have a go at half moon. And remember, all you balance junkies, I want you to try and pause in the transition. It's really good to make sure we can do things slowly and in control. So coming into half moon, if you can, just using a block, staying with me on this. If you do, take the hand to the floor, just try and really lift through the underside of the body so you don't feel like you're collapsing over the hip. It feels active and strong through that part. Taking the left arm up overhead, coming to that point where we want to lift the left toes off the ground and just hovering in anticipation. And then from here, lifting up into the pose, pressing through the grounded foot, trying to keep a slight bend in the knee for balance. It does make it more difficult. And then if you lock it out, but we are building strength through all those stabilizing muscles. Then if you want to have a go, just for a moment, option to try letting go of the block and coming into the full pose. So we're balancing, we're using our right side of our core to keep us here. And then gently stepping back with control to warrior two. Sinking into warrior two. And then taking the hands to frame the front foot. This time we're going to lower all the way down to the mat. So drawing the knees down and taking the chest all the way to the floor, moving any blocks out your way. Just taking a moment to have a breath here. I'm going to extend the arms out in front of us. So legs are long, arms are long. From here, I'm going to lift the left hand and the right foot. So I'm going to reach out and grow long across the diagonal. So trying to reach the left fingertips forward and press the right toes away from me. The exhale, I'm going to set it down and come to the other side. So I'm going to reach the right fingers out and point the left toes behind me, growing as long as I can. And then exhaling, setting it down. Coming over to the other side one more time, so left hand, right foot, reaching out, growing long. And then exhaling, setting it down. Final side, right hand, left leg, reaching out long. And then gently setting it down. From here, coming in to our locust, we're going to take the arms to 90 degrees. So the elbows are roughly in line with the shoulders, maybe slightly further back. And we're going to squeeze between the shoulder blades and lift from the chest to lift the upper body off the mat. If you want, bringing the legs to and just twisting the heels to face out, trying to engage through the lower legs, using the bum to lift. Just lifting and growing, just gazing very slightly in front of you. We're trying to keep the neck long here. Great work. Can you lift any higher for the final moment? And then gently setting the legs down, taking the hands under the shoulders and inhale, lifting into a cobra. And exhaling, lowering back down. We're coming briefly to child's pose. We're just going to have a moment in our child's pose. Just connect with the breath. Even when you're moving fast in practice, it's really important just to take these little breaths. Just check back in with how you're doing. I'm going to walk the hands over to the left-hand side of the mat and stretch down the right-hand side of the body. Really enjoying that sensation from the right hip all the way to the right fingers. That release, that stretch. And then walking the hands over towards the right, stretching out down the left-hand side of the body. Great work, breathing deep. And then coming back towards center. From here, coming back to downward facing dog, pressing into the hands and lifting the hips. Heels come down, slight bend in the elbows. We should be nice and warm in this position now. If you can, try and remember how it felt at the start of class and hopefully how much better we're feeling in it now. It might not be perfect, that doesn't matter. It may never be perfect as you might see it, but it is certainly perfect if it feels good in your body and you feel like you've got that little bit warmer and a little bit more stretch from it. So what we're going to do now is come into Malasana, our yogi squat. So we're going to take the feet to be either side of our hands. So we're going to walk to the top of the mat. I'm going to take the feet nice and wide. Toes can turn out slightly here. We'll sink the bum down. Take the hands into prayer in front of you and lift the chest. So we want the torso to be as upright as we can. So the belly button and the sort of bottom of the rib cage are trying to draw through. If this feels too much, you can sit on a block. I'm just going to twist so you guys can see what I'm doing. So you can sit on a block here as well, if that feels more comfortable for you. Or come back to goddess pose, so a slightly wider standing variation of this squat. We're going to come into a twist if that feels comfortable. We're going to take the right hand down and lift the left arm up towards the ceiling. Breathing deeply, gazing up towards the left fingertips. And then switching over, left hand comes down and right arm comes up this time. Great work, everyone. Bringing both hands back into prayer for the last little moment, and then coming into a forward fold. So you should still be at the top of your mat here, so I'm going to come join you. Not really done much forward folding in this class, so just taking a moment here. Remember, you can take the hands to rest on a block in front of you. You can draw the forehead in to meet the knees, maybe take the hands behind the shins, or maybe even the hands under the toes. Any option that works for you. As you inhale, let the spine lengthen and you lift slightly out the pose. And as you exhale, sink back in, drawing deep. Breathing and exhaling, sighing, letting go. And then releasing the hands wherever you are. We're going to come all the way down to our mat now. So if you can, we're just going to lower the bum down and just have a little rock on our back to find our way to seated. Otherwise, just coming down seated on your mat. So if you can, just squeezing in, rolling back and up to seated. This is a bit of fun, but finding your way to the mat in any way that works for you. So we come into boat pose now. Just a tiny bit more strength work to do, and some nice long juicy stretches. So to come into our boat pose and keep the back really straight, we're going to let the chest lift forward. Taking the hands to face up, so we're feeling really energetic in the start position. And we're going to lift the shins to be parallel with the mat. So really try and scoop and draw through. If this is enough, then stay here. You want a little bit more, just lowering down to hover just above the mat. Maybe even giving the feet a kick. And then drawing back in and gently setting down, squeezing the knees in, drawing the chest through. Having a little breathe. And then just one more time, taking the hands to face up and lifting the shins to be parallel with the mat. Lowering halfway down, giving the feet a little kick, go for a swim, pretend it feels great, which of course it does, and then drawing back in. Great work, everyone. From here, coming to bound angle pose. So we're going to take the soles of the feet together and let the knees come out towards the sides. We're going to create a little diamond shape here. I'm going to lift the chest and start to fold forward, so keeping the back nice and long at first. You can either use the elbows to press into the calves and just like work them down with the hands resting on the feet, or you can take the hands out in front of you and just gently draw the forehead in to meet the feet as well. So yogi's choice, whatever works best for you here. Breathing deeply, using that inhale to fill the lungs, and the exhale, just using the breath to sink a bit deeper, just having the intention of sinking deeper. Letting go of any tension we might find. Coming into either variation of the pose, whatever feels good for you. And then when you're ready, we're going to straighten back up and come to a wide angle forward fold. So I'm just going to twist to the side so you can see me. I always sit on a block in these poses as my hamstring flexibility isn't as great as I'd like it to be. So I highly recommend, if you're tight in the hips or on the back of the legs, just to sit on a block, or even a rolled up towel, just something to lift the hips a bit higher. Just feels a bit looser and a bit more comfortable. I'm going to press the heels away and just let the toes point up. On the inhale, taking the arms up overhead, lifting the chest, and then on the exhale, folding forward. Then try and reach the hands out in front of us, draw the chest down. If you want, you can round through the back, so you can tuck the chin in to meet the chest and see how much deeper you can get. Personally, I generally sort of stay quite active in the pose with the chest lifted through. That's just my own personal choice, whatever feels best for you in your pose today, in your stretch. Just a few more minutes to go in our class, so well done for sticking with it. Just getting all the benefit of a harder effort now with these longer stretches. So if it feels good staying here in the wide angle forward fold and you just want to work on seeing if you can walk the fingers forward, please do. If you like a variation, we're going to face over towards the left leg. So I'm going to lift up and then I'm going to fold back down. So another little extension we can have here is to take the right hand to the outside of the left leg, just to get a stretch across the back. If you can, take the right hand to catch hold of the side of the foot, but if you can't, don't worry, just hold onto the leg. I'm going to try and draw the right shoulder back if we're doing this, just to get a little bit of sort of tension there. And we should really be able to feel the stretch through the back and through the leg. And then gently releasing the foot or the leg, coming back to centre and walking over towards the right leg this time, squaring off over the leg, starting to fold down. I'm going to take the left hand to the outside of the right leg, maybe take the hand all the way around to the outside edge of the right foot too. I'm going to gently draw the foot back, try and draw the shoulder back as well, so we've got some engagement there. Get a stretch down the left side of the back. Great work. And then gently releasing the foot. Coming back towards centre wherever we are. And if you're on a block, just coming off it now, I'm going to take some seated twists. So I'm going to take the right leg underneath the left. And then from here, I'm going to take the right hand around the outside of the left knee. Left hand comes behind. And we're going to inhale, grow tall, and exhale, twist and gaze over the left shoulder. If you'd like to try a different variation of this stretch, we can take the elbow to sit on the outside of the left knee instead. So whichever option you do, try and keep the back straight. I generally just use the hand and pull myself in, or even keep the knee in the hook of the elbow, just because I like to feel that my back is really tall here. And when I choose the other variation, I round slightly, but it's completely up to you. Just another moment in this twist. And then coming back towards centre and over to the other side. So this time the left leg comes underneath, the right leg comes on top. Left hand comes around to the outside of the right knee. We're going to grow tall on the inhale. I'm going to twist and gaze over the right shoulder. Remember, we've got the other two options of maybe taking the knee into the crease of the elbow, or perhaps taking the left elbow to the outside of the right knee as well. There's another variation for this twist, so whatever works for you here is absolutely fine. And then slowly coming back towards centre. From here we're going to find our way to downward facing dog. This is an access into our pigeon pose. So if you're not a huge fan of pigeon, please do take recline pigeon instead here. On the inhale, we're going to lift the left leg nice and high. And before we set the leg down, we're going to draw the shin parallel to the top of the mat. So my left foot is coming towards my right knee, and my left knee is coming towards my left elbow. And then I'm going to gently set it down. So just getting a little bit of extra engagement through the core before we set the leg down. I'm going to lift the chest through and then come down onto our forearms here. So whatever variation of this pose works for you, I generally let the left foot come in here slightly too. So in an ideal world, we have the shin parallel to the short edge of the mat, but generally the foot comes in a little bit and that's okay. Just working with whatever feels good in your body. If you want to take the head all the way down to the mat as well, please feel free to do so. Just breathing deeply, sinking into the left hip. A little bit of extra release here. Just a few minutes left of class. Just really trying to enjoy these final moments. Great work, everyone. And when you're ready, slowly coming back to the hands and finding our way briefly back to downward facing dog. Coming straight over to the other side, so lifting the right leg high. And then remembering we're going to hover the leg before we pop it down. So we're trying to draw the right knee over towards the right elbow and the left foot towards the left elbow. Then gently setting the leg down. I always draw the left leg away to help me square up on the hips, lift the chest forward. And then coming down onto the forearms, maybe taking the head all the way to the mat too, yogi's choice, just settling into the pose at whatever level feels comfortable for you. Coming back to your breath if you've lost track, so nice deep inhales. On the exhale, so you can sink a little deeper into the stretch. And then when you're ready, slowly coming back to the hands. From here, we're going to come onto the right bum cheek and swing the legs out in front of us. Final thing we're going to do is just have a quick little shoulder stand, little inversion. Or if you want, instead of shoulder stand, you can just come to lie on your back and hold the backs of your legs. So a bit like legs up against the wall. If you haven't got a wall handy, this is a nice alternative. If you want to come into shoulder stand, then we're going to draw the knees up over the head, pressing into the hands. And then we're going to take the hands to the lower back and walk them up. From here, we're going to lift the legs up and try and press the hips forward. And if you want, you can have a little play with the leg positioning, maybe drawing one leg back and forward, maybe taking the heels together, drawing the knees out to the side. Whatever you're doing, just trying to keep the core engaged here, trying to press the hips forward. So we're going to spend a moment here. It's only a short class today. If you'd like to pause and stay here a bit longer, feel free to do so. When you're ready to come out, we're just going to draw the knees back down towards the head. Hands come onto the mat and with control, gently rolling back down. And then from here, coming into a full body stretch. So I'm going to interlace the fingers, take the arms up overhead. Nice deep inhale. And as we exhale, just let the hands come down the sides of the body with the palms facing up. Maybe giving yourself a little wiggle, maybe drawing the shoulders nice and broad. And then just settling in. If you have time to stay for a long Shavasana, then please do. When I practice at home, I'll generally pause whatever class I'm doing and just put on one of my favourite relaxing songs and just stay here for that moment. Just enjoy these moments that we give to ourselves just to do nothing. That's so important sometimes. So easy just to go, go, go all the time. Just let the mind be still. If you've got a busy day ahead or a dinner to prepare, maybe giving the fingers and the toes a little wiggle, drawing life into the body. Trying to keep your breath nice and deep, keeping that with you for the rest of the day. And then rolling over to one side and just taking a moment to rest there. And then finding your way back up to seated. Just gently rocking left and right on the sit bones. Growing tall, rolling the shoulders up, back and down. On the inhale, drawing the hands to prayer and lifting the chest. And then exhaling, bowing the head. Namaste.